On this week's episode of the Modern Dealer Podcast, David and I are like the McRib. We are back in the studio, that is, and we're discussing how the coronavirus will change the way that we buy and sell cars. We say a quick hello to the car-selling badger, and we find out why David likes big trucks. All that and more on this week's episode of the Modern Dealer Podcast. Welcome in to episode 047 of the Modern Dealer Podcast. My name is David Farmer with Intice, and with me, as always, in the studio is David Bertoncini.
Man, I feel like the McRib. I'm back.
It is back.
I'm back, baby.
Yeah. So we got a little bit different setup here. We're still in the Modern Dealer Studio, but we got like about 12 feet between us right now. So I think I feel the need that I have to kind of yell to project my voice.
So do I. We are very far apart from each other, which is, from different camera angles, or if you're listening on, iTunes, but wherever you're picking us up at, I mean, it's definitely David and I are having some social distancing, and ever since I've walked in, it's been very social distance. But the good news is the energy. The energy of the show is back. Yep. Because having both of us in the studio just it inflates the horsepower, man. So we just put some nitro into the podcast, no
Yep.
So kicked up, ready to roll, man. I'm feeling good. Happy to be here. I'm thankful and knock on wood that we're both healthy. No karaoke or coronavirus. I got a little karaoke virus because I've been singing a lot lately. So
there you go.
But we've been corona free, so we'll thank goodness for that. And but man, I'm here. Feels good to be here.
Yep,
I'm ready to deliver a kick-ass show. How about you?
They've lifted the restrictions, right? So we're in what our governor is calling the full phase one. Why he just doesn't call it phase two, I don't know. But we are into the full phase one of the getting back out there, opening up businesses. One of the things that we want to make sure that we are doing is keeping our social distance, trying to stay as safe as possible, being as smart as possible. We know the virus is still out there, but hey, you know what? We, as everybody is asking for, it is time to try to get a semblance of normalcy back into the world. I mean, it's crazy, right?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like our main topic today. It's talking about how will the new norm be, and we got some foundations for the new normal, but the new normal is going to be, I would definitely say, regardless, anywhere in the country, nobody's shaking hands anymore.
No.
And as I brought up before, that was just something that we did in the 1700s to show somebody, hey, I don't have a gun.
Yeah.
Let's shake on that. That was to
we're going to do the murder, death, kill thing, right?
Yeah. Actually, I like the foot deal. Some people are doing a little foot kick, it's about as close as you want to get because that brings it within 5-6 feet.
That's even, you'd have to be pretty far to be able to kick 6 feet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, definitely the handshake deal is done. I mean, and that's kind of a cornerstone of the car business is when you meet somebody for the first time or you say thank you. When hey, do we have a deal? I mean, there's so much of the handshake is really ingrained into the car business.
That and every real retail type business that's a major transaction, real estate, for example, you meet your realtor and you congratulations on your new home and you're shaking. Well, it's going to be like, congratulations, peace out, I'm out. Thank you, throw me the keys. See the keys, see the car, see the road, see you later.
Yeah, exactly, right? 3C delivery.
Yep. But
funny stuff.
This article by Bloomberg, when I read it, can I express my initial true feelings of it?
Yes, please. That's what it's all about, right? So, before you do that, though, so there is an article. We're going to keep the link down below. How the coronavirus will change the way we buy cars. So this was released May 18th, just a couple days ago, and this is kind of the framework of our main topic. Is really how the coronavirus is going to change the way that we buy cars. So I just wanted to put that out there, so there's a little bit of context. The way that you're going to respond, your initial gut reaction to this article, right?
Yeah, it was a big fuck you.
Yeah.
I was just like, what? Because, here's the thing. When somebody writes an article that has never been in the car business,
right,
they slaughter the business.
They do.
And I would love to reach out to Hannah Elliott from Bloomberg. And it's like, Hannah, would you like to maybe come on our podcast? I invite you, Hannah.
Yeah,
to come on the podcast. Allow us to have just an open conversation so you understand it really, maybe the proper terminology and the idiosyncrasies and just the culture of our business, because it's the same business as any other business anywhere else.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't matter where you work,
people are people. I mean, we've said this 1,000 times. If we said it once, the car business is the people business. It's about your consumers. It's about the employees. We're not the Badgers dressed up in the plaid shirts. We're not.
We used to be.
We used to
back
be.
in the 70s, right?
We're not throwing keys on the top of the roof like they did in Christmas.
When do we stop doing that?
Was it Christmas Vacation? No, it was Family Vacation.
Family Vacation,
the first one, right? Throw it up there.
The business has definitely changed. It's evolved just due to technology and customer awareness from, when Cardone was saying give back in the 90s before we were so internet driven. And now it's just like, the customers usually has more information than the dealer or than the salespeople. So, I mean, it's a completely different world. But the way this was written, it made me mad when I first read it because I'm like...
Because there was definitely an edge to it, right?
Yeah.
I know some of the comments she made was, these are customers... are likened to lambs being led to the slaughter, dealing with highly educated and trained killers. I mean, I know they didn't say trained killers, but they did say lambs being led to the
slaughterhouse, right? But I think her vision of the negotiating ninjas, I'm like, come on. 90. I would have to admit that more than probably 80-90% of the salespeople are not good negotiators. They're terrible.
They're terrible negotiators.
No, boss, they want to do this or they're going to leave. And I'm like, can you just go back and ask for $500? No, she just made it sound like these guys are like, they're trained killers.
They're not.
They're SEAL Team 6 going in there and they're taking heads off.
They're people trying to earn a living for their family.
Exactly.
Now, one of the things that they did talk about in this article is that one of the ways that COVID-19 may change the auto industry is the compensation of salespeople. Now, this is something that I'm a proponent for. Is to be able to vary the compensation plan for salespeople that may be more in line with the activities that we want those people to take on a daily basis. Back in the day, in the 90s, compensating people based on, purely gross profit, maybe made a lot more sense than it does today. Pre-internet,
sure.
I mean, invoice pricing is out there. Margin is highly compressed over the past 15, 20, 30 years. So the role that we want salespeople to take on a day-to-day basis is different than it was 20 years ago.
They're more of a guide.
Yeah.
They're like a museum curator, just showing you the features and benefits of the vehicle. Trust me, they're for those. I mean, we're talking. Our audience are dealers.
Yeah.
Most and everyone can agree is like, hey, your salespeople, if they can get from soup to nuts on their own, that's great. You have some of those that are self-sufficient, but most of them are really not that great of negotiators. We want to think they are. They're just the equivalent to. You've got realtors out there that think they're fantastic negotiators. I'm like, no, you're horrible. You're like the worst negotiator.
I know.
I've sold my last few houses myself. I'm like, no. And they're like, don't you want to hire me? I'm like, no.
You know what the funny thing is too is you see these realtors on TV and like house hunters or whatever, right? They are like the worst salespeople ever, right? It's like they go in, they walk into a living room, they go, what do you think about the living room? This is a living room. Like there's no feature benefit presentation. There's no building value in the property. It's all about this is the bedroom.
Right.
What do you think about the bedroom? It's like you're the worst.
No imagination or like, you're supposed to actually sell to some senses. I'm like, can you feel this? Can you smell that? Touch, feel, felt. But she had a couple good points. I will give Hannah this. She had a few good points that I actually wrote down when I read through this here. Good. To my surprise, a couple points in there. Sales of classic cars are up. I've never been a classic car guy. Maybe like pre.
Well, I think.
I guess maybe pre 80s or 90s. That those classic cars from the 60s and 70s. I've never been a big, huge fan of, but I guess they're up right now.
I would imagine one of the reasons why we've seen in the industry that the sale of classic cars are up. These are more these are not purchases that a normal person is going to make, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are going to be purchases that is going to be a toy for somebody. It's going to be somebody that maybe is in the higher income level that's going out and trying to buy something from an entertainment standpoint.
They're bored.
And they're bored.
Yeah,
exactly.
they're bored.
Yeah.
I'm like cooped up in the house. I'm like, oh, this 67 Camaro looks pretty badass.
Yeah.
I think, buy now. Click.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe that's where she's getting that data from.
You know, these probably are purchases that they're willing to make more online if they're buying it from a reputable dealer, or at least a big part of the sales process is happening online, right?
Yeah, and I would have to say it's probably a lot of eBay purchases that way. Maybe that's where the data is coming from. 265,000 lost jobs. Yeah, that's over 250,000 jobs. I'm from our numbers that we picked up, we know AutoNation was like over almost 10,000 jobs. And,
furloughed 10,000 employees. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Cox Automotive, I think, as an industry, was 17,500 just last, or was it 12,500? Forgive me, but just last week they furloughed that many employees.
And things are kind of coming back-ish a little bit. And, you know, as some states open, things are starting to pick up here and there.
On that note, 265,000 total jobs, according to Cox Automotive, the auto industry has lost. So dealerships are, you know, they're having very challenging times right now. It's like, do I want to bring all these employees back? You know, how is business? How is business going to come back? So these are the questions that dealerships are trying to answer.
My thought process is that the factories have been shut down and shuttered. That obviously you talk to a dealer and you ask them what their 60-day supply is, you know, for vehicles, you know, and the response is that, you know, they're running out of new cars.
Yes.
So, I mean,
so there's a balance there, right? So it's not just like bring everybody back. Let's put all our money back into advertising. You know, let's start selling like we were selling 3 months ago, 4 months ago. You really can't do it because we know that the auto manufacturers have also furloughed their employees. They've not manufactured the same level of vehicles, so that pipeline is diminished. So even if a dealership were to be able to get back to pre-coronavirus type of numbers, they'd run out of cars within short order.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is a fine balance of, like you said, bringing people back and, you know, the factory's opening back up, but is production going to be to the full production as it was? I mean, there's so many, a lot of moving parts, man. Just a lot of things happening there. She talked about also the customers that do not want to go to the dealership. And this is something that I'm like, her numbers are wrong. She says 60% of customers will not visit a dealership. Yeah. I'm like, no, that's completely backwards. It's about, as you and I know, being vendors and dealing with so many stores, the feedback I get from dealers, and like you've heard yourself, is about 85% of people still want to kind of come into the showroom.
Well, she kind of made
up. I mean, it is up. The online purchasing to complete, you know, having a digital retail product to be able to complete a transaction online, that, and she's probably getting some data from some old numbers, had to be there in order for people to purchase more nowadays. So that's happening.
One of the things about that 60%, she did say that some 60% of consumers would rather not visit a car dealership at all. So the reality is that there's a lot of people who would rather not visit a car dedealership. They would rather go to the dentist, right? We've talked about that before. Maybe that's where she's getting this number, but she also made the same. She made the opposite point: is that most people would rather touch, feel, drive before making that decision. She also talked about that the automobile purchase, the average new car price tag right now is about $35,000. The average used car price tag is about $21,000, and that most people that represents the second largest purchase or the second largest payment that they're making, and most people would rather make sure that they have an opportunity to touch it, feel it, drive it, kick the tires before making that type of commitment. So I think she's kind of maybe talking about both sides. I'm in I'm in your camp, is that I truly believe that most customers still want to touch it. They want to drive it. They want to interact with somebody. They want to talk about it, and then they want to make that decision. Also, more customers are doing more research online, which I think is, which of course they're doing more research online because there's more information online.
Right.
It's more interactive to be able to do the research online.
It's embedded into people that want to, touch and feel a vehicle because, the logic side of it, it's like if I came home with a Lamborghini right now, my wife would be like, what? She's going to think logically. But emotionally, I was the one that was there, touching it, feeling it, getting excited, imagining myself driving down the beach or whatever this Lamborghini got me all excited about. That is the emotional side that a customer still needs to go through that process physically at the store. You can...
Well, I think it also goes along with what another point that they made in this article is that most people still feel if I'm going to buy a car, I want to make sure I'm getting a good deal. The only way to get a good deal is to be at the dealership talking to somebody. And maybe there is some truth to that, where you got somebody that's just sending emails or communicating via text. You're not going to have that interpersonal connection with somebody. And I think it takes that for the most part, for most people, to really get to let their emotions guide their decision making, because buying a vehicle is not all logical decisions. A big part of it is emotional decisions. I think that brings up another good point too in this article. They're talking about that most people are going to keep their cars longer because logically it makes sense. My car's still fine. I'm not putting as many miles on it. But again, buying a car isn't all logical.
No.
If it was logical, we wouldn't be having the trade cycles that we have right now today, right?
Exactly. You ask any woman, at least some of the women that I know about shoes, I'm like, hey, so let's use cars and shoes. And it's like, hey, do you really need a new pair of shoes? And, from a guy's point of view, like, I'm just going to wear these things out until they fall apart. But
want or need, it's a different thing.
It's a want or need thing. So it's more emotional. Like, man, those shoes look, wow. I'm like, man, I have like 30 pairs of the same type of shoes. I'm like, oh, no, that's a different color.
And
that's a different this, that's a different that. And I'm like, I don't notice the difference. But to somebody that's an emotional purchase, those shoes, there's not a necessity behind it.
Well,
I watch Naked and Afraid.
It reminds me back when I was training car salespeople, when I was training salespeople, and people that are new to the business specifically, is that you have to keep in mind that everybody is in the market for a new car, even if they bought a car yesterday. Because you're always looking for that new shiny thing, right? I mean, you think about it.
Squirrel.
If you were able to get out of your car, your 4Runner, your truck right now, and you were able to move into a new or newer vehicle and keep your payment the same, would you do it?
Absolutely. I'm actually pissed because the 2020 had the features I wanted that my 19 doesn't have. So I'm like, the blind side monitoring.
So
like,
you would do it if you could.
Yeah, I'm in.
Exactly. Yeah,
I'm sold.
Everybody feels that way. If I could do it now, I would go ahead and do it.
If I could, would you?
It doesn't logically make sense, but you're in the market to do it, right? And if that customer takes the effort to actually visit a dealership or start communicating with you, they're further along in that. So that customer, like Glenn Mills used to say, they're not here looking for a washing machine. Right?
Well, we got enough parts we could probably put together a washing machine back there. I mean, there's
probably
I'll get a tub and a little motor.
Yeah.
But no, the there's some good points in there, and one of the ones that she was talking about, other than the test driving.
Yep.
That's obviously we're not at a store right now, so I would love to hear from some dealers their feedback and what their new test drive process is. I would believe it would be just like an old D-horse that, like, hey, let the customer go on their own. Clearly, I mean, we've got a lot of information on customers nowadays. They take their driver's license, their insurance card. Obviously take some, maybe a picture of them, or if they left the trade there, then let them take the vehicle, go around the block. You would still almost feel like, to me, if I was selling cars right now, I would still feel the need that, like, let me just kind of do my test drive and take them on the route I want to take them on, and there's
a difference.
It's an art to it.
There's a fine line between selling and allowing a customer to sell themselves, right? Which is one thing that I truly at my core believe that you look at a digital retailing technology where you put a buy it now button and expect people just to press the button and buy a vehicle right on your website without the assistance and without a salesperson being involved to help that customer along the way.
Right.
It's just like expecting somebody to come into the dealership and not be sold and just have them buy a car from you. I mean, nobody just buys a car. They get sold cars. It's a conversation. It's not a monologue. It's a dialogue, right?
Yep. And it's like you said, there is no buy it now. When you think about real estate, there is no buy it now on a house. Like, oh, they want 350,000, buy it now.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't happen. It is a process. It does require some interaction with some people. And just like we talked about in past episodes about Carvana, 100% online. No, it's
Not
100% internet lead. That's the only thing it really is. 100% internet lead. We'll do a lot of stuff.
People are still involved.
Yeah, people are still involved. We're still picking up the phone. We're still talking to them.
Yep.
We're still sending a driver to,
Somebody's still printing the contracts or generating the electronic contracts to be signed. Somebody's physically looking at the deal. Somebody's actually bringing the vehicle to the customer, dropping it off. I mean, it's not 100% online. It's not, even buying something from Amazon is not 100% online because they're dropping it off, right?
Right. I mean, unless it's a drone, but still somebody had to kind of hook up the drone to the box. There was no machine.
I guess in many cases there potentially could be no person involved, but in the most cases for a car dealership there are people involved, and if those people are selling cars, they are car salespeople, even if they don't want to call themselves that.
She touched on a few things there. The Amazon style of buying, which, the Carvana is saying that, oh, well, if you have somebody that buys, Amazon, they're going to buy through Carvana. I'm like, no, that's not necessarily true. Another misconception, like I said, somebody writing an article about the car business has never spent a minute in the car business.
Yeah.
Your Carvana buyers, as you and I know, and many of our viewers know, that our listeners know, that the foundation of Carvana was that, what was that used car? That
drive time.
Drive time. So it was just a bad credit outlet that you can see drive time. They can hook you up because
choice, right?
Secondary Mary.
Yeah,
we still call it Secondary Mary, but secondary company was the birth of it, and that's kind of still in the background. That still plays in the background.
People didn't go to drive time as their first choice to buy a vehicle, just like Carvana. They're not.
It's not their first choice. No,
they're going. You got good credit people going to Carvana, but it's not their first preferred choice. I mean, wouldn't it be great if you could just go to one dealership, find the exact used car that you're looking for, low miles, clean, and then you just buy it? But it's hard to do.
Have you heard of Wahoo Cars?
Wahoo Car?
That could be possible, right?
It could be possible.
Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Coming to a internet browser near you soon.
Right?
Awesome.
Let me see. Oh, then she was talking about the exotic brands that.
Yeah, looking at the different experiences that exotics have. I mean, it's a different purchase experience.
All emotion.
Yeah, exactly.
100%. There's no logic behind it.
Yeah.
I remember one of Grant Cardone's famous closes. He was trying on a jacket, and he was at this suit store, and the girl didn't tell him the price of the jacket until he had it on. And he put this jacket on, and he asked the price, and he goes, "What? Who would pay that price for this jacket?" She goes, "It's not the price of the jacket, it's how you feel. Look at yourself in the mirror. How do you feel now?" He goes, "Oh, I feel good." She said, "Visa or MasterCard?" Right? Yeah, and he's like, "Man, I'm sold." But it is a feeling, obviously, for a car like that. I mean, there's no logic behind it. It's just,
if it was only logic, people wouldn't be buying Rolls Royces. They wouldn't be buying Bentleys. That is truly, 99% emotion when making those decisions.
And that's when she was talking about, these ninjas, these people are leading people to the slaughterhouse. I'm like, no, have you ever met an exotic car salesperson? They are not that good. There's not a lot of work to it. There's, like I said, it's an emotional purchase. Deliveries at home and test drives. I think she's a little off on some of her numbers there. I do feel those are up. People are expecting that a little bit more nowadays.
But I think that, we're really talking about how is this coronavirus pandemic going to change the industry as a whole going forward, where one of the points that she was making with talking to somebody within the industry about how, what's going to happen post coronavirus. Let's say we get past this, and we know that it is going to make some long-term changes. But from an economic standpoint, I don't think this is something that is going to survive long term. I mean, you think about if you had a sales team. If you're in a big store, let's say you got you got 2 or 3 different sales team, you got 15, 20 people on each team. You couldn't have 4 or 5 people out delivering cars for test drives. And the test drive is only going to close at 25%, just like if that customer walked into the dealership showroom. So you'd almost have to make an economic standpoint. Do I want to have my people out of the store delivering test drives to people, or is this something that I'm just going to kind of demand that they come back from an economic standpoint with the margin compression that we're dealing with? And once we get past COVID-19, people aren't going to be as fearful. So I do think that these home deliveries and home test drives is going to be much more reduced once we get on the other side of COVID-19. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, because some people will feel like, oh, it's safe to go back out to the dealership.
Yeah, safety wasn't an issue where we're past it, right? We have we have all the
mask, gloves. We've got like the AutoNation.
No, as I say, once we get past it and we have the medication,
right?
So it's we have the antivirus medication or whatever it is, and it's not really an issue. A year, 2 years down the road, whatever it is. And it is safe for people to come out. I don't think that that is going to be something that sticks around.
I did notice that Hannah does write a lot of articles about the car business.
Huh?
I just clicked on her and the going back to Bloomberg. I mean, she does write a lot about the car business.
We
should invite her on the show and just give her a little real culture. I know you've never played, you've never been on a surfboard, but let me just really kind of give you from a surfer's point of view exactly what happens.
And one of the things she also said was that she interviewed specific people within the industry. So maybe a lot of this content that she's getting is actually the point of view of the people that she's talking to, not necessarily her point of view. But I tell you what, it's 27 minutes into episode 047 of the Modern Dealer Podcast, so we have to start to get this thing wound down. The last point that they make in this article is how will the auto industry recover from COVID-19? And what's the answer, David?
I like big trucks and I cannot lie.
That's exactly right. It is all about trucks and SUVs, right? Higher profit margin vehicles, faster moving. And she made some specific references, like Hyundai had an increase in its truck mix by 11 percentage points, over 2019, 54 from 43, adding vehicles like the Venue and then also the Palisade.
Palisade is people love that thing.
It's a big truck. That's
really,
a nice big truck. Really
shocked for a first year vehicle, and this year for it to just really take off like it has. So. Good job, bravo Hyundai, and the Kia Telluride, which is Telluride.
Telluride, yep.
All the same.
All good stuff, David. So it's March. What's today?
Today's May 19th, not March.
May 19th. Yeah, not March. May 19th.
May 19th.
So you've been 46 now for almost a week.
5 days.
5 days.
Who's counting? Come on, it's May 14th, May 19th. What's the difference? It's all good. I feel good. I feel great. I got a little workout this morning, so. This and I did want to ask you, who is your hairstylist over the pandemic? Which I was doing some self cuts. Yeah. Were you doing some self cuts, or you had the wife cut?
Yeah. No, I get to do the self cuts, keeping it up. Yep.
You look good.
Well, thank you.
I haven't seen you in 2 months, so it's it's been almost 2 months, right?
I know, it's crazy.
Well, time flies when you're under the quarantine. But,
all right, so what we'll do real quick is I'll get us wrapped up because we got about 20 seconds left. So if this is the first time, please subscribe to the Modern Dealer Podcast. Hit on the notifications. Ding! For David.
And David.
That's a wrap!
Hey, buddy, how about us making us a deal?
Yeah, I like her a lot. How much wiggle room we got on the price?
Wiggle room? I'll show you wiggle room. Wiggle, wiggle, whoa. Wiggle, wiggle, whoa. Wiggle, wiggle, ooh, wah, ooh. Wiggle, wiggle, wah. Wiggle, wiggle, woo. How's that? Huh? We got us a deal going. Wiggle, wiggle, whoa. Wiggle, wiggle, whoa. Wiggle, wiggle.
Tired of being badgered? Come to any Johnson Automotive.